Hi, I'm Dr. Jamil Sayed, and on this podcast, we're going to talk about some deep stuff. I'm here to tell you that you're amazing, and often, the only person who can't see that is you. No matter who you are, what you do, or where you're from, there's greatness in you. Let's talk about it. We all know what it feels like to be stuck between options, wondering what the right next step is. In today's episode, I sit down with entrepreneur and investor Scott Kidd for a real coaching session about finding clarity, making wiser decisions, and moving forward without second-guessing yourself. You'll hear us work through an important decision in real time. My hope is that as you listen, you'll gain insights that'll help you get unstuck and move forward in your own life. I'm calling this episode How to Get Unstuck and Move Forward. Enjoy. Hey, Scott, so wonderful to be with you. And thank you so much for saying yes to being with me today.
Thank you for being here. It's been quite a while
Yeah,
before.
yes, it has,
Yeah,
brother. Yes, it
yeah.
has. We've been through a lot, and I am excited to support you in creating whatever magic we can create today. So I would just love to hear what is it that's on your mind, that's on your heart, that we can move forward.
Uh, the more and more throughout this year, and with all the things going on, is things that I really need help with is just probably having more patience and really, really need to say no to more things. Uh,
Mm,
because I've noticed once certain things have gone away, I'm still fine. And
yes.
and I'm actually better because I'm actually more focused on the things that I should be focused on rather than creating a busy life.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to both of those things. And so, which one you want to start with, patience or the willingness to say no?
Let's start with the no. I think
Okay.
the be the
So, willing to say no to more things. So, tell me about why is that an issue for you in terms of like maybe saying yes more often than you would like?
um just I think it resonates, and I've kind of thought a lot about this just because there's been a lot of times where, been in between jobs or in between things, and the phone wasn't ringing, so maybe it's kind of a more of a scarcity mindset of that maybe if I don't take this, they won't ask me again, or maybe this is not gonna, maybe this opportunity is once in a lifetime, but I need to kind of just I need to definitely take a step back and realize that, hey, things are gonna come when they come.
Yeah. Now, you said earlier when you said when you first said willing to say no to more things, and then you said it sounds like you've had some experience of saying no though to more things and ended up working out really well.
Yes. Um, and it's kind of what we're talking about where before we got on, just like knowing where I'm supposed to be is because we had this discussion before, like wherever I am right now is where I'm supposed to be because I have had that plan of everything's worked out perfectly for me to be right here. And recently, my last job, it kind of changed pretty abruptly, as it does in the yachting world. Things here today, gone today, it happens. But then this other opportunity happened pretty quickly, and it was exactly where I needed to be because, like I was telling you, my one of our daughters is home for the summer, so I get to be here and spend more time with her. So I need to actually think about that more because I was realizing that had I stayed at that job, knowingly or not, I was kind of I wasn't going to end up being where I need to be or who I need to be because I was kind of slowing myself down or I wasn't growing anymore in that. position. So
Yeah.
it kind of gives me an opportunity without me even really saying no or yes to anything. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and these things are happening for me.
And are there areas in your life right now where there's opportunities presenting themselves? And again, opportunity doesn't mean it's not good or bad, it's a neutral thing.
Yeah.
Opportunities are presenting themselves that you're considering saying yes, but you kind of want to say no to.
They happen quite a lot, especially on the real estate stuff. They're happening daily, whereas there were times before where they weren't happening so quickly, but there's what I need, what I am focusing more on is not everything is an opportunity for me. It might be an
Yeah.
opportunity, but it's not necessarily for me. Maybe it's the great thing for someone else or that person that's presenting it, but doesn't necessarily need to be for me. And I need to say, well, I'm working, get more focused on what my placement is in that, rather than just saying, hey, I'll take a look at it, just say, hey, no, I'm working on this right now. And I've
Yeah.
gotten better at it, but I'm not doing it enough.
Yeah. So, question for you. So, sometimes we have a hard time saying no, and it's not necessarily one or the other, it could be a mixture. But sometimes we have a hard time saying no. It's more of like a fear of missing out.
Hmm.
Other times we have a hard time saying no because it's more of a people-pleasing tendency if we don't want to disappoint somebody, or it could be something else. Do either of those, both of those, or something else resonate with you?
I think it was, the fear of missing out or the scarcity of like, hey, this, maybe this is once in a lifetime and I'll miss that FOMO thing. And I think we
Yeah.
said a long time ago, the FOMO is causing me to mow. It's actually causing me to
Yeah.
miss out on that, and I just remembered that, and I need to actually keep repeating that
Yeah.
to myself, because then it's going to make me realize that, hey, this this is actually keeping me from missing out on what I should be working on.
Yeah, I love that you remember that. So
Yeah.
FOMO is causing me to mow.
No. Yeah.
And that idea of remember whenever have you had the experience in your life of saying yes to something when you deep down knew you should have said no, and it ended up really costing you in a variety of ways?
Yes.
Mm, yeah,
Probably too many times.
yeah,
And that is something I need to keep referring back to, because that is costing me, and then it's causing me to miss out on what I should be doing
yeah.
more ways than
So,
not.
so if we start first with just the learnings, mining the memory for the gold. Here you said, more times than I can count. I've said yes when I really knew deep down it was a no. And that cost me in time, money, attention, energy, missed opportunity, heartache, whatever it might have
Yeah.
been. What did you learn from those experiences that you can start applying to your present moment and the decisions you're making now?
Is just stop, because sometimes I go too fast. Say the quick yes, I should be quicker with the no, or just at least take a minute and go, all right, is this in alignment with what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this something that I should be doing right now? Am I just distracting myself? Just kind of, and then just move on and say, no, this is not in alignment, and move on, rather than dwelling on it. "Oh, this could be good. This could be really, because it can go down a big rabbit hole, especially with a lot of this other opportunities that are happening. Because it's probably happening. I guess I need to get used to that more opportunities are coming,
Yeah.
rather
So,
than thinking of the past of like when they didn't come, like, you know, need to be okay with, because it is a good thing that more opportunities are coming to me on a daily basis. And that is great. And people think enough of me to present them to me, but they don't all need to be a part of my life or a part of what I'm
mm,
doing.
yeah, the muscle it sounds like that has you have the opportunity to work out more is the muscle of discernment.
Mm.
It's like there's all this opportunity. Similarly, it's like saying there's all this information.
There's all the books you could read, podcasts you could listen to, websites you could watch, people you could go learn from, events you could go to, etc. There's no shortage of that.
No.
But there's a discernment of what would most serve you right now, given the life that you want to live, the goals that you have, your values, etc. And so there's two things I want you to be with. First one, there's an old quote I remember hearing. The difference between millionaires and billionaires is billionaires saying no to almost everything.
Mm.
Please tell me what came up for you when you hear that.
I've heard that one, and I know that is the difference because it's being very, very conscious of how you spend your time and what you choose to use your time with. And I know that that is a big that that is a big difference maker. And because if you hold sacred your time and your decision on who you spend time with and what you spend energy on, that creates that person that I need to be that has that life and
Yeah,
lives that life that is but I like the way you framed it with the discerning um because we are bombarded with so many things all day long, but all of it doesn't need to be a part of our life.
yeah,
Saying no to a lot of those choices will actually make that divide.
yeah. Like when it comes to decisions, the second part I was going to touch on, I find that when values are clear, decisions are easy. When you
Mm,
know what matters most to you, when you know what you're going after, you know what you value the most, all your decisions are filtered through that. So when I think about that quote, the difference between millionaires and billionaires is billionaires say no to almost everything. It's because they know what their North Star is. They know like that's the goal. Everything maps to that. So everything that's not that is a no.
hmm
So if we don't have that North Star metaphorically, if we don't have like the thing that we're going after as a company, as a family, as a business partnership, as a solopreneur, whatever it is, if we don't have that single point we're aiming for, a lot of opportunities show up and they're actually just distractions, but they look like opportunities. So they're a lot of distractions are opportunities in disguise. Or I might be saying it backwards. A lot of opportunities are distractions in disguise because they're not actually going to get you where you want to go.
hmm Yeah, that's definitely true. Mm. Yeah, because the distractions are definitely not opportunities. And the difference being that even just not being distracted by them is is where the no comes because
Yeah.
immediately it's not distracted once you say no.
Yeah. I'm reminded of I used to watch a lot of Jim Carrey movies growing up. And there is in The Grinch, he says he's talking to his dog and he says, one man's trash is another man's potpourri. And in a similar kind of way, one person's distraction is a genuine opportunity for the
hmm
other person. So it's not judging the opportunity as bad or wrong in and of itself. It's just saying, for me, at this stage of my life and career, given the state of my life, where my family's headed, what my goals and dreams are, what I value, what my standards are, does this support me in getting where I want to be? And if you apply these filters on it, it's almost like when I've been traveling a lot, like I told you, the last 20 months or so. And if you go on Airbnb, or as an example, there's filters. And you can say, oh, I want the whole house, or I want a room, or I want this many bedrooms, or whatever it might be. And it narrows it down to give you the as close as possible to what you're looking for. In a similar kind of way, when you know what you're going after, when you know what your values are, now you know what you want and you know how you're willing to get there. There's certain things that won't be acceptable because they're out of your value system. Then certain opportunities show up and you go, oh, looks cool, but that's not in alignment for me.
hmm
And so just given the conversation so far, what are you getting from this so far that you can apply to your life and help you with your decisions?
Just add the filter on there and just ask the questions to myself, like, is this in alignment with so what I'm with my end goal, my North Star. And if I just ask that question, is that in alignment with my North Star? No, then it's a no.
Yeah. And, something, it could be binary or it could
Hmm.
be a continuum. So the
Hmm.
binary is it in alignment with my North Star? Yes or no? If
Yeah,
it's that clear cut, awesome. Don't do it if it's a no.
yeah,
But sometimes it's a continuum where
yeah.
it's not necessarily an easy yes or no, but it might be to what degree is this in
Hmm.
alignment with my North Star? And it might, if it's like, 70%, 80%, 40%, and then you get to decide for yourself, what's that cutoff point
Yeah.
where, because every decision, when you say yes to one thing, I call it the law of sacrifice. When you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to everything else because you
Hmm.
can't do more than one thing at once. You can't multi-focus. And so if you decide, the example I often give is if we're in Kansas in the US and we say, like, we're going to Canada and we start going north, and then you're like, no, no, we're going to Mexico. Like that doesn't work. Like those two
Yeah.
directions are not going to go in tandem. And so you have to make a decision. And when you go to one place, you're not going somewhere else. When you're sailing on the yacht, you're going somewhere. But wherever you're going, you're not going everywhere else. And
No.
so in a similar kind of way, when you decide what is that North Star, where are we headed? And if I were to make this decision, it's a sacrifice because it's going to take my attention and time to some degree. It's going to take resources, whatever those might be, to some degree. It might cause some type of relationship strain to some degree. I might have to, put myself out there in ways that I haven't before, etc. A, am I willing to make that sacrifice? Because if you're not, don't do it. But if you are, okay, now you're willing to do it. Is it the right move? And then that's when you can decide what's the likelihood that this can help me get where I want to be faster, more effectively, less risk, whatever it might be. And you balance all those out, and it starts to get a lot clearer what decisions are the right one. You probably heard of shiny object syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Or people
Done.
talk about like the dog, and the dog's like squirrel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Done
so
that.
when, yeah, and well, me too. And I think that we all been there because especially as you get more, let's say, advanced in the journey, you get further down the career line, you build up a certain level of relationship capital and network. Like you said, people start wanting to present opportunities
Hmm.
to you. And on the one hand, it's awesome. It's like, where were all these opportunities 15 years ago? I would have
Yeah,
loved to
yeah.
have these then. But now it's like I said, it's that question of discernment. So it's, do I know what matters most to me? Do I know where we're headed? So there's a leadership component of leading myself and leading the business, leading the family, whatever it might be. Do I know what I want? Do I know where we're going? Do I know what matters most to me? Now an opportunity presents. What's required of me if I were to say yes to this? What's the sacrifice? Is the sacrifice worth it? Because it actually would get me there with a high likelihood. It might not be 100%. Usually it's probably not, but is it a high probability? And then given the sacrifice, am I willing to do that? Is it in alignment with my values and who I want to be in the world? When the answer is yes to all those things, then it's like, okay, this is likely the right move for me. But if once the answer is no, notice that what is FOMO, like fear of missing out?
Hmm.
It's just a story. It's a story that we tell ourselves about why, like, basically the grass is greener on the other side. There's something going on over there. And if I'm not a part of it, it's somehow going to negatively impact me. Now, sometimes that might be the case, but ultimately, we often scare ourselves into making decisions that are the wrong decisions because we think, scarcity wise, like you said, what if this is my only shot? What if nobody ever
Hmm.
presents me an opportunity again? But let me ask you the flip of it. So think back to times where you thought FOMO, like, what if this is like the
Yeah,
only shot? Did more opportunities follow that one?
yeah,
Every time, right?
yeah. Every time.
But in the moment, it was like, this is it. Like it
Yeah,
all runs on this. I got to say yes. Yeah. But again, every time new
yeah.
opportunity showed up.
Every single time. I mean, I've actually caught myself in the past 5 years when I've said, what if this is the only time? And then I've said to myself immediately after, what if this is one of 100? And then I was like, oh, what do I do then? And then it kind of made me, think about more of all the other things. But I did like what you said about the degrees of no, like 70%, 50%, because it could be there's things that I've said no to probably in the last few years, and it would be like more of a no, not right now. Be like I would need to be further along. Like I get what you're saying, because if it's a no, then it's finite. But if it's like a degree of no or a degree of yes, it has to be. I probably need to go through a few more discovery questions of like how big of a yes and how quickly is this putting me on, because like the comparison of on the boat, for me, it's pretty easy. Like, because I can get that very singular mindset where we're going here, and the only thing I have to worry about, the only thing I have to think about is getting everybody there safely. And
Yeah.
is that in alignment with this? And I've been working on trying to get that mindset with everything else,
Yes.
rather than taking on all these other things that I don't necessarily need. Because if the weather's bad, sure, we're going to well, the weather's bad. I liked your degree of no, like, is it bad enough? Will we get through this? Okay, well, 80% it's going to be bad, but it's our only quickest way through it. Okay, so then that makes more sense to me. Like with the other real estate stuff, is this person in alignment? Should I take this call? Because are they someone that doesn't align with our path, our journey with our group? And if it's potentially, it might be maybe 50% later on, this might be a relationship I need to develop. So maybe I just take the intro call, or maybe reassess where that whole relationship needs to be.
Yeah. And notice too, to your point, when you have a strength can be transferred from one area of life to another. So you already have this strength in spades on the boat.
Mhm.
And it's like, this is where we're headed. My job is to get everybody safely there. Any decisions that come up, if it puts that in jeopardy, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
And then, if it's a storm, like you said, weather's bad, do we keep going? Well, that depends. And then it depends on what. And then so in a similar kind of way, you take that same strength, and just like you're the yacht captain, you put on the same hat metaphorically, or if you want literally, and you be the captain, you be the captain of your life. And you say, okay, what is the equivalent of that's where we're going, and I need to get everyone there safely. Whatever that equivalent is, now you have a decision in front of you. And if you realize that, again, it's easy when it's binary. If it's a clear no, you
yeah,
just don't do it. But if it's like, all right, I'm 40% yes to this. Now, if it's intriguing enough, you might just say no at that point. But let's say if it's intriguing enough, you might negotiate with the person and you might say, hey, so I like what you're sharing. Here's where I'm a yes.
yeah,
Here's where I'm a no. Now, if you could help me with this side of it, meaning we change certain things, we change the investment, or we change what's required of me, or whatever that might look like, that's going to start shifting the yes and the no. And if that pushes you over whatever your yes threshold is, and it genuinely then is a good opportunity for you that is in alignment with where you're going, you might notice that some of those decisions that you had said yes to that weren't a right fit could have potentially been the right fit if you had done this first. Because the person that you're speaking with is always free to say, no, thank you, this is the way it is, and we're not negotiating it. And if that's the case, great. You wish them the best, and this is not in alignment with the life you want to live. And you could ask yourself, like, what would a billionaire do? What would the yacht captain do? Anything that gets you into that headspace of, for me, a general rule of thumb, say no first, always. Now, that
hmm
doesn't mean you say no verbally, but what it
hmm
means is no matter what the opportunity is, in your mind at least, it's a no, because then you have to really be with it and think about it. And so if you're me, if you're the person and I'm you, and you're presenting something to me, and if I'm an old version of Scott that said yes to a lot of things that he didn't want to do, and then they go, "Oh, Scott, I got this great opportunity," and they talk about it in such a way that probably makes it seem really great, and then you want to do it, and you're like, in your mind thinking fear of missing out, this might be the only one, and then you go, sure. And maybe some of those work out well,
Mhm.
but maybe some of them really don't. And then you might go, okay, I don't like this kind of, it's a toss up of if it's going to be great or if it's
Yeah.
going to be horrible. So the flip would have been you present something to me and, oh, this is this great thing. Do you want to do it? And assuming you've given me all the information, imagine if I say something like, hey, John, I so appreciate you sharing that with me. I've got a lot of commitments right now on my calendar, and I'm being very intentional about where I'm spending my time. I can see the value in what you've shared, and I actually want to take, 24 hours to be with this, or I want to take 48 hours to be with this before I give you a final decision out of respect for both of us. Like, can we make that work? And I've never seen someone say no to that. In the event that somebody genuinely needs a decision in that moment, if you're not sure, probably no is going to be better. But in that moment of you gave yourself a day or 2 days or whatever the time frame to just mull it over, be in the shower with it, talk to your partner about it, just think. And what would this actually require? You're likely going to make far better decisions in alignment with the life that you want. But just like you said, every time there's been a decision that you had a fear of missing out, thinking this might be the last one, plenty more always came after. And that includes the next time you have that FOMO feeling, history is going to repeat itself. As long as you're alive, there's going to be more opportunities. And often the FOMO leading to the MO that we talked about, so the fear of missing
Yeah.
out leading to missing out, it's causing you to miss out on what's actually right for you because you're saying
Mhm.
what's wrong, you're saying yes to what's wrong for you.
Yeah. I I do like that saying no first initially because then I have to prove the yes.
Yes.
So whereas I'm saying yes and then prove why I have to prove why I say no, and then by the time I've already said yes, I've gone through all these other range of things, and now I'm committed to something that I shouldn't have been committed to in the first place, and I'm with in a situation with other people where they're depending on me to do that, and I should have said no initially, and then I do like the negotiation of like let me sit with it for 24 hours, 48 hours to see if this is a right fit for both of
Yeah.
us because
And it's
I don't
also,
think uh anyone would well, if someone needs an immediate yes, there's usually a lot of other
yeah,
extemporaneous causes there.
exactly. And this idea of if someone's really having some urgency around this, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you might want to question why.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
also that idea of certain commitments are going to require way more of you. So, for example, it's different to say, "Hey, Scott, could you help me like move some furniture on Saturday at 4? It'll take about 45 minutes." And you don't want to do it, but you say yes. And okay, you did something you didn't want to do, but you helped me out, and 45 minutes goes by kind of quickly, and then you're done. It's different if it's some real estate investment and some big thing that's going to potentially require weeks or months or
Yeah.
years of your effort that you just said yes to that you don't want to be a part of.
Yes, because that those I tell people other people and I need to reflect on my own advice like look be careful because that contract is like a marriage. You however that term long that term goes, you're committed until that point. So
Yeah,
be wary of who you're with and who you're spending your time with. And
yeah,
I'm great at giving advice, and I need to be better at following my own.
yeah. And then and notice what you just said, like, the inner wisdom, it's already there.
Yeah,
Like you already know what you kind of, I don't love the word should, but I'm just going to use it in this context. You already know what you should be doing. and you know
Yeah.
what you should not be doing.
Yeah.
It's only when we get caught up in the thought, whether it's the fear of missing out or whatever it might be, that we don't hear or we ignore that inner wisdom. And so the way you said it was perfectly, if I say no as a default, at least, internally, because, you asking for 48 hours is the equivalent of saying no in the moment. If you were to
Hmm.
say no in that sense, and then now you have to prove the yes, that leads you down that rabbit hole of alignment with values, alignment with standards, alignment with where you're headed, time frame, sacrifice, all these kind of things. You're going to make way better decisions. And yeah, are some people going to be upset if you say no to whatever they're offering? Okay, but that's on them. Like your
Yeah.
responsibility is to you and it's to your family and it's to your dream. And whatever
Yeah.
that dream is, supporting it and surviving. So, from a health perspective, I remember hearing a mentor of mine say, every time you put food in your mouth, you're either feeding health or feeding disease.
Mm.
Another way of saying it in this context, every time you say yes to something, you're either feeding your dream or you're starving it.
Mm.
And when you can put it in that context, I'm using those words in like an intense way, starving, right? Because the visual of your dream's like your baby.
Mm.
And, before our call started, and you had mentioned to me that, your girls are in college and like they're older, and it's like, okay, they were at one point very dependent on you. And there was a nurturing process, and there was a feeding, and there was a development, there was all these things. And then eventually they're able to do things on their own to larger and larger and larger degrees, and less is required of you. And so,
Hmm.
in a similar way, your business, your dream is your baby. And in the beginning, it requires a lot from you. And then your decisions determine how it develops and how it grows and what direction it moves in. And if you're not careful, it ends up moving in a direction that you didn't want to actually go in. The way I think it was Jim Rohn, but one of these personal development guys, he said, have a plan for your life or you will be a part of somebody else's plan for theirs.
Yeah.
So when you say yes, when you mean no, you're saying yes to somebody else's plan for your life
Hmm.
when you're the star of the movie in your life. And you're saying yes when you mean no, you're agreeing to be like a side character in somebody
Hmm.
else's movie. And your movie doesn't really develop that much
Hmm.
because your focus isn't there.
Yeah, I've heard other versions of that one, either build your dream or help somebody build theirs.
Yeah.
It's when you're like saying that yes to that thing. And I really like the that version of that there's those two wolves story and all those other things, kind of a similar kind of thing. I mean, yet a lot of things are not necessarily binary, but if I'm singular purposed, then a lot more things do become binary.
Yeah. And so think of it as homework going forward. Strongly encourage you to do this. Outline where are we headed as a family? Where are we headed business wise? What kind of life do I want to live? I was just speaking with a friend of mine earlier today, and he told me that he coaches baseball for his son, and his son's in Little League. And he's a lawyer, and in order to do that, he has to finish work at 3 to get back by a certain time to get ready for the game at around 4 to 5. That's one of his values, and he loves it. And he told me this beautiful, phrase where he said his son said to him, Dad, I'm so grateful you're my coach. And it was like really beautiful. And it was like, and he's been doing this for a long time. And this idea that if he didn't know what was important to him, in this case, time with his son, coaching baseball, all that kind of stuff, certain opportunities will show up. And without realizing it, if he just says yes immediately, what if that took up time where he was busy until 4:45 or 5:30 every day? Now he can't coach his son anymore. But in the context of what you said, maybe he signed an agreement and now he's
Hmm.
like locked into something at the detriment of what actually matters most to him. So if you can, as homework, really outline for yourself what matters most to me, what matters most to our family, what am I willing to put time in as a sacrifice, but what am I never willing to sacrifice? It could
Hmm.
be, like in his example, I don't work after 3 because he has that specific reason, or it could be something else. But what matters most to me? What are my values? Where am I headed? And then one other way of putting it is, what is something that you're a big enough yes to that it's easy to say no to everything else?
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because one thing that keeps coming up that I said to myself a long time ago that someone said to me was that the only person or persons that are going to remember that you worked late or weren't there are your kids.
Yeah,
It's not going to be your boss, your partner. They're not going to care that you worked late till, or anything like that. But your kids are going to remember if you weren't there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you can identify, this is a big enough yes, whatever that is for you, that I'm such a yes for this. I'm so bought into this that any other thing is a distraction. Any other thing is a no. And it becomes very clear. And so sometimes it's easy to identify what that is. And sometimes you got to be with it and cultivate it. But what
Mm,
is a big enough yes that every decision has to really prove the yes in order to do that?
yeah, that definitely resonates. Because that going back to being on the boat, that if it's not in alignment with us getting there safely, I don't do it.
Yeah.
Like you said, I'm already able to do it. I just have to do it that same
Yeah.
way. Put that same hat on and not let anything else uh be a yes.
So what could be some ways going forward that you could take what we just talked about and implement? What are some reminders? What's a question you could ask yourself? What's a visual you can have, like the yacht example with the
Yeah.
hat? But give me like what's coming up for you about how you can take this conversation and make it more tangible.
Well, definitely just taking whatever is presented to me and doing the quick step back and saying no initially and prove the yes. That's the thing that has resonated with me the most because I equate that also to being on the boat where, if the weather's bad or what have you, is this yes, we're going to go through it, or is this a no, we need to defer, we
Yeah.
need to, alter course or something. I need to keep that same analogy in my head, like, is this keeping me on the path? No, then I need to push it aside. I
Yeah.
need to prove, or maybe, wait a minute, it's a no first, but let me see why this would be a yes. It's a no because it's going to take away from what I'm already working on and these three things. It's it's a yes because it's an infinitely better opportunity than these, but still working on these and I'm much further ahead on these than this. So this is starting over. So that's
Yeah.
a no.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
keeping in mind that, love all that, and keeping in mind the negotiation part, where using that lawyer example, a friend of mine, let's say somebody offered him this opportunity and it would require him to work until like 6 p.m. Well, that means he can't be there with his kid playing
Mm,
baseball. So let's say if he just thinks about it as this is an opportunity, I'm either a yes or a no. If it's a no, I'm going to miss out on all these benefits. And now he's having all this internal conflict. But what most people don't do is that negotiation piece where imagine he went to whoever the person was and said, hey, you have a family, right? And let's say the person does. And they go,
yeah.
yeah, I've got, 3 kids or I've got 2 kids. And you might say, how important are your kids to you? And they might say, the most important thing. And then imagine if he said to them, yeah, just like that, I've got, 2 boys and they mean the world to me. These hours, 3 to 6, I need that time to be with them. I love
Yeah.
your opportunity. I want to do it. I want to just let's negotiate how we can make it happen. Now,
Hmm.
you'd be surprised how many times somebody is actually open to doing that. And
Yeah.
then it turns into, in this example, he gets whatever the benefit was, but he also gets to be with his kid,
Hmm.
right? And there's always going to be a sacrifice. There's always, something's going to be required of you, and you get to determine if you're willing to make that sacrifice. But ultimately, start with the no, prove the yes. If it's not enough of a yes, what would make it better? And
Hmm.
then bring it up to whoever it is that you're in conversation with, and maybe they're willing to make some adjustments.
Yeah, how would this become a yes? Like, because I did that many years ago. A lot of times when I was on the weekend, like I'd end up working and stuff like that. But I said that, well, my kids are young. I can't really be doing this. I thought I was gonna miss, but I said I'm not gonna take any more calls on the weekend for X, Y, and Z. Certain people, like if people reaching out to me that I haven't heard from in a while, yes, I'm gonna take the call. But if it's a work related thing, I'm not taking the call. I can check the messages later. And that made a huge difference because one, I realized that I don't need to take that call. Nothing's going to change. It's unless it's if it's catastrophic, they will keep calling back.
Yeah.
If it's something I need to address, there's going to be some urgency there. But and I've gotten a lot better at that. So I need to apply that same sentiment because I liked what you said. Like if it's a genuine enough opportunity and I present to that person, hey, from 3 to 6, that's my time to do X, Y, and Z. I'm with my kids at that time. So how can we make this work to where I can do it at all these other times, like early morning or, some other time. So that I need to realize that I can negotiate with myself and negotiate with, to make that thing a yes or negotiate away from that yes.
Yeah. And without sharing what they is there at least one decision right now that you have on your plate that this conversation has given you some increased clarity around?
Yes, and it's definitely with a lot of the real estate stuff because there's a lot of opportunities that keep coming, and I've really made a more conscious effort of just focusing on those things that are going to move the needle and move forward. So there's a lot more things that are going to be a no here forward.
And I
But
want you to see how,
not going to be are a no.
yeah. And using like a golf metaphor
Yeah.
of you hit the ball and it goes in a certain trajectory. And if you, before you hit the ball, if you turn your wrist a certain percentage of degree and you hit it, it starts off kind of the same and then eventually they split and because there's a
Mm.
different spin on it and they'll go in completely different directions. As a result of this conversation, you saying no to more things that you should be a no to, think about what that saves you in terms of time, energy, attention, money, but also what that saves you in terms of family time, and then also what that allows you to say yes to.
Hmm.
That's the kind of thing that makes a conversation like this, in my mind, priceless.
Yeah, because I'm realizing that I could actually double down more intentionally on what I am doing, and that'll move the needle a lot faster also. Excellent.
Fantastic, man. Excellent. I want to give you a choice. We could be complete, or we could dive into the patience part of it.
I have time. We can get into that too. That's fine.
Oh, yeah. So tell me about, you say, I want more patience. So tell me what your experience has been thus far of patience.
Oh, well, it's kind of with a lot of the things that I've been doing in real estate and also with my yachting career and stuff, like it takes time for to develop these opportunities and these things. I didn't get to where what I need to keep realizing that I didn't get to where I am today in my yachting career and in real estate. It didn't happen overnight. It's been a segment of things, but a lot of times I feel as though things should be moving a lot faster because of the potentially the enormous amount of effort that I've put in and I just need to take a step back and let it happen because these things are happening for me, but they're not, they're not none of it is going to well, it could happen overnight, but it's going to happen in its own time is what I need to realize. That's
Hmm.
what I need to have patience with. Like it could seemingly happen overnight, but none of it has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So none of it has, let's say, and is that a problem?
No, it's not a problem. It's
Oh,
just I maybe it is and it isn't. I mean it's maybe it's that instant gratification that I need to step away from and realize that these things happen in their own time. And a lot of times looking back, a lot of these things don't happen in the same form as I think they do. They happen in an even better fashion.
mm, really let that one sink in.
Yeah, I did. I was just thinking about it when I was saying it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. How often do we think something has to happen a certain way, and then it doesn't, and we're initially upset by that, and then it turns out it works out way better?
Pretty much every time. I have to laugh at my own
Yeah.
my own journey there for a second, just because I need to reflect back on that and keep taking a moment and looking at that and saying, well, it's gonna happen when it's gonna happen.
Yeah. And if we play with the possibility of the following things, when somebody is saying, like they're experiencing impatience, let's say, well, what does that mean? It means that they believe it should be happening faster than it is. And the first part is what you actually talked about from our previous coaching work, the idea of, well, is that true? Like it
Mm.
should be happening faster than it is.
Mm.
That's like me saying, you know, a woman who's pregnant, how far along are you? And she goes, 3 months. And I say, you should be 9 months. It's like that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I'm gonna try that one. Yeah,
You know,
that's
it's like, you have a loaf of bread that's early in its development. You
yeah.
just put it in the oven. It's been in there. I haven't made bread. So let's just imagine, let's say it's in there for 2 hours is what it's supposed to be. And it's 15 minutes in. And then you open it and you're like yelling at the goo and you're going, you should be bread. It hasn't been in there long enough. But maybe something you make in the oven takes 2 hours. Something else might take 20 minutes. Different opportunities require a different gestation period to be born.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of this story. It was an elephant and a dog, I believe. And they were talking to each other, and the elephant and the dog are both pregnant at the same time. And the dog's looking at the elephant and they're talking and like, oh, this is great. Like, we're gonna have babies, this is gonna be amazing. And then the dog gives birth. And the puppy's there, and the dog looks at the elephant and goes, don't worry, yours is coming soon. And then the dog gets pregnant again. And the dog looks at the elephant and goes, is something wrong with your baby? Like, you're still pregnant. And then the dog gets pregnant again. And now the dog has like three or four, I believe like a dog's gestation period is like 4 to 6 months, somewhere in that range. And so it's shorter than like a human. So it's like three to six, somewhere in that range. An elephant's like 18 months.
Yeah.
It's around there. And
Yeah, yeah.
so it's somewhere in that range. And so the idea of the story is that the elephant initially is feeling bad about itself because it's going, what's wrong with me and what's wrong with my baby? Because this dog is getting babies left and right. And no matter what I'm doing, this thing's not coming fast enough. It should be here already.
Yeah.
But if an elephant's gestation is 18 months and the dog is, let's say, 4, if the ego of the elephant got its way and 4 months in it gave birth, that baby wouldn't be viable.
No, I wouldn't.
So if it
Maybe
got
that
what
bit.
it want, it wouldn't
Yeah.
have been a good thing. And
Yeah.
so if we play in that world of there are certain opportunities that take time, that every opportunity takes time, but like there's certain opportunities that take a degree of time. You may or may not know what that degree of time is, but it reminds me of like in Alcoholics Anonymous and AA, a lot of places have a phrase or a saying, just don't drink today. I might be paraphrasing it, but it's the idea that if you try to say, I'm 30 or I'm 40 or I'm in my 50s and I won't drink the rest of my life, that can be overwhelming for some people. That can feel
Mhm.
like you're trying to bite off a big chunk and you're like,
Yeah.
how am I not going to drink for decades? But if you just say, could I just not drink today? That becomes a lot more manageable. And there's things you can do to ensure that doesn't happen. And then tomorrow you do the same thing. But day by day, you get further away from an old habit and you create a new one. So it starts to get easier as the new one gets momentum. And so when we think about these opportunities, there are ones that are going to be right for you and ones that are going to be wrong for you. And the patience of here I am in the game. What can I do today to win the day, to focus on today? Not worrying about when's it going to happen. The surefire
Hmm.
way to make sure it doesn't happen is to stop winning the day. If I
Hmm.
have a plant and it requires daily watering, like bamboo takes about 5 years, my understanding, for it to break through the ground. But you got to water it every day for it to
Hmm.
finally get to that point 5 years from now. So whether you're on day 22 or day 127, water the plant today. That's all you got to do. At some point, it's going to sprout. And the moment you stop watering it is the moment you're going to delay it. And of course, there's things we can do to make things happen faster. But ultimately, that patience piece, it should be happening faster than it is. What if it happening faster than it is would actually cause problems? What if you're not ready for it? What if you're not prepared? What if it happening faster would actually be a disaster?
Yeah, I have to learn to be patient with my impatience. Because it's funny because I said it was a while back, and I guess I was in line and the lady was taking too long or something like that, and I kind of maybe chirped up a little bit, and then I realized what I was doing, and I said to her, I said, "Well, thank you for being patient with my impatience, and I need to apply that to myself, like just say, hey, be patient with your impatience.
Yeah.
Just let it happen." And I need to remind myself of that none of this happened overnight. But, while I'm sitting there thinking maybe, well, not maybe, just maybe do that one more thing.
And there's also this component, there's a balance here. Patience, but also it's almost like that dichotomy between I'm going to live as I'm going to have patience because I'm going to believe I'm going to be here for a while, but I'm
Hmm.
also going to live as if today's my last day.
Ah.
And both of those can be balanced. It's like a tightrope, and you can be with it. And so, in a similar way, yes, have patience because you're in a process, but also there's the trap to fall into of not getting passive, where you're being patient when there's actually things you could do that would speed it up.
Hmm.
Speeding it up is not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing, but excuse
Hmm.
me, in the event that you look at your situation and you go, am I doing everything that first I know to do that's correct to move this process forward? Let's say the answer is yes. Great. Are there other people maybe that are making this result happen faster? If yes, yeah, maybe they know something I don't. I can learn from them. I can glean that information, apply it, and maybe I can get the result faster. But going using the pregnancy example, yes, a baby can be delivered early, but not that much earlier. And so like
No,
there's nobody giving birth at 2 months. There's nobody giving birth at 3 months to a healthy baby. And if we come
no,
from that
not,
space,
yeah.
you get to that point where you go, am I doing everything I know how to do? Yes, great. If not, do that. But if you are, look around. Are there people doing this faster? Is whatever they're doing in alignment with my values? Am I willing to make that sacrifice? Because whatever they're doing is going to be different than what I'm doing.
Hmm.
And at that point, you can create what you create faster, but there's that balance. It's like, what's the rush? And you might, if you can answer that, because that could be a powerful question. What's the rush?
Yeah. And I recently heard, well, it's actually a while ago that I heard this was to relax into success because actually you make better decisions and better more effective movements when your brain is more relaxed instead of being impatient and wound up. Because maybe the actions that I'm taking in that moment are not necessarily the best ones that I should be taking. I'm just
Yeah.
doing something to do something.
Yeah. And doing something to do something, it reminds me of there's an old expression, don't just stand there, do something.
Yeah.
And and there's like a Zen Buddhist spin-off. It's don't just do something, stand there.
Yeah.
Because like you said, when you slow down, you're going to make better decisions. That intuition, that inner knowing is going to come through when you can reflect on what you said. Everything you've ever done, it's a process. It takes time. Now, as you get further into your career, certain things will happen faster. What took years might take months, or what took months might take days or hours because of your network and your abilities and your skill set and all that kind of thing. So it's not saying that it's going to take a long time, but it is saying it's going to take whatever time it takes. If it's a genuine aligned yes for you, that's in alignment with your North Star, in
Hmm.
a way, it kind of doesn't matter how long it takes
Yeah.
because it's going to take the time it takes. And if you just show up and do the work on an ongoing basis, you're going to get there. And if there's things you can do to make it happen faster in a way that's good for you, great, do that. But I find that we get in trouble when we're not necessarily doing everything we could be doing, and we've got a story that it should be happening faster.
Hmm.
And then we don't change and do other things. We just kind of sit in that complaining and then in that feeling, and then we just don't feel good. And
Hmm.
then we see other people getting results and we compare ourselves and we think something's wrong with us. And it turns into this like shame spiral.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely does. And it kind of reminds me of something I think it was Gandhi I read where he said, I have so much to do that instead of meditating 1 hour today, I need to meditate for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I said, that actually makes sense. So
Oh,
maybe I
yeah.
need to, in those moments, just take a step back and take a walk and just kind of get out of my own head and just say, well, it's happening in the same, it's happening when it's happening.
It's like you being the yacht captain and people turn to you for the ultimate like decision. What is it we should do? And let's say there's a lot on the line. Maybe it's a safety thing. And it's your decision, but potentially it could go wrong depending on how you play it. And rather than just jump into it, like say the yes, you go for that walk and you be with it. And you may not know what to do, but you be with it for a period of time, and that internal knowing will come in and you'll make the best decision that you know, but it's probably going to be better than whatever rush decision you would have made right then and there. And so that's the equivalent of I'm going to go meditate for two because
Yeah.
I've got so much to do that I can't afford to make a mistake or I can't afford to have, inefficient thinking. So I'm going to slow down. I'm going to bring my presence to the moment. I'm going to really check in. And so
Mm.
notice there's an overlap between willing to say no to more things and having more patience because you're willing to say no to more things because you know there's a better yes. So you're being
Yeah.
patient. Like it all
Yeah.
comes together.
Yeah. It really does. It really, oh, this is good. This is really great. So they kind of it's all like full circle that they're both related. It's kind of the same issue, but two different things kind of combined. Really
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else that you'd like to share? Or do you feel
No,
complete?
that's a lot that I need to process here. I
Yeah.
need to sit down for a minute and just kind of now I need to take a walk and really think about it and just kind of make sure that it all sets in.
Yeah. And if I can leave you with this, then there's this perspective that I take on decisions that people have found helpful. Often people get in trouble because they try to know what is the right decision before they make it. And the thing is that you're never going to absolutely know what the right and wrong decision is until after you make it. At
Mhm.
best, you'll have the educated guess of given what I can see, given what I know in the moment, this is what I'm going to do. And so the best we can do is have as much clarity as possible on what we talked about. What matters most to me? What are my values? Where am I headed? what am I willing to do and what am I not willing to do? What are the sacrifices I'm willing to make and not make? When you know those things and every decision gets filtered through that, and you start as a no and you prove the yes, A, that's going to make a world of difference for you. And then when you can ground yourself in, like you said, I'm on a journey, this is a process, it'll take the time it takes. Are there certain things I can do to speed it up? Well, likely yes. And if those are there and you want to do it faster, you can go do that. But sometimes trying to make it happen faster messes it up. It's like
Mm.
if I want to cook something, like I love making sweet potatoes as an example. So if I cut up a sweet potato and I slice it up and I put it in for 425 for like 25 minutes, the oven doesn't go this high. But if I were to say, I'm going to put it at 1,000 for like for 45 seconds, like it's not going to do the same thing.
No, not
So
gonna do it.
sometimes speeding it up is going to cause an issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes speeding it up is going to be great. And so you use your discernment on that, but you trust that, like you said, life's unfolding for you, that when the right opportunities present themselves, you'll be ready for them because you're doing the work on a daily basis. And then you focus on winning the day. What action can I do today to forward, the ship of my life in the direction that I want it to go? And as long as I'm doing that, you're winning day by day by day. And because it's an authentic yes, you fall in love with the process. Every day is enjoyable. Every day doesn't mean there's things that you don't that are more challenging, but every day is enjoyable in the sense that it's in alignment with the dream. And you go, I'm living the dream. It's in process right now. Versus if you say yes when you mean no, you're like, why did I do this? And now you're living in that energy, right? And so ultimately you slow down, you have everything you need inside of you. You know what you don't need to do, but you know what you could do that would create the life that you want. And as you know better, you can do better.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you for being with me today.
Well, thank you so much as always. It's always such a blessing and a great conversation. That's very helpful.
You're so welcome, brother. Be well. Every person I've coached on this podcast arrived believing they had one challenge. And almost every time we discovered that the real challenge was something deeper, an invisible pattern, a hidden belief, an emotional burden they didn't realize they were carrying. If you recognize yourself in these conversations and you're ready to uncover what's been slowing your success, impacting your relationships, limiting your health, or keeping you from the life you know you're capable of living, I'd love to support you. You can schedule a conversation using the link in the podcast description or at my website, jamilsayed.com. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next episode. And remember, transformation starts today.
Thank you for being with us today. If this conversation served you, it would mean a lot if you left a review and shared this with anyone who may benefit. An extraordinary life without regret is available to you now. Choose it. It's your time.